It's Friday, December 3rd, and here are today's top stories.
The Federal Aviation Administration grants MSU Denver students a competitive edge.
Do students feel safe on Auraria campus? Let's see what Michael Phibbs, the chief of police, has to say about it.
And COVID restrictions make a comeback with signs of a new variant. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to a very special episode of News Ahora.
We have a lot of stories today. Let's get started. As MSU has adjusted to in-person learning again, people may need to be reminded how to stay safe in public. I went out on campus and learned about ways students can stay safe. Here's what I found. From the neighboring light rail stations to just outside the classrooms, the chance for a crime to happen is possible anywhere in between. For students like Destiny Aker, not everyone may feel safe when making the commute from their homes to the public campus without other students around.
When you're coming here from downtown Denver, do you feel like it's a safe route? Do you ever feel like you might be in danger or anything like that?
I do. My parents would disagree, but I mean, if it's like light out and there's other kids walking, like I feel fine.
Luckily for Auraria campus students, there are emergency towers placed all over campus that serve as a beacon of safety. The towers, located at almost every corner of the university, serve as a way for people to call for police at a moment's notice. Michael Phibbs, chief of police for the Auraria campus police department, gave some insight on the emergency towers.
About 82 emergency towers outside around on campus. Our goal is to make them visible from every place you could be on the main pedestrian walkways. So if you ever take a look, I bet if you stop on a main sidewalk and you just did a 360 view, you'd probably see 2 to 3 of the emergency phone towers. So there's 82 outside and there's about 225 inside the buildings and garages.
With so many towers outside and even more inside, it's safe to say that there is always somewhere to go for help. But what exactly happens after the button is pushed to call for help?
It opens a line to our dispatch center. For example, the tower behind me here, there are 2 different cameras looking at it. So as soon as that phone goes off, our dispatchers can pull up the cameras and see exactly what's going on here and what resources we can send to help people.
While talking with Phibbs, I also asked him about how often the towers were even used.
Well, they're misused about once a week by somebody just pushing the button to see what happens. But they get used not as frequently as other things we have. Text-a-tip is far more popular, but the emergency towers do get used probably legitimately for something 3 times a month.
If you have any questions, you can contact the information hotline at 1-877-556-3637.
Just a day after millions celebrated Thanksgiving together with family and friends, a new COVID mutation has American health experts on alert. Of concern. And just this Wednesday, the first case was confirmed in the U.S. and California. The individual tested positive after traveling home from South Africa, and they are reportedly self-quarantining. According to Dr. Fauci in a White House news briefing, they are vaccinated and experiencing mild symptoms. This newest variant was discovered in South Africa early last month, and the U.S. has since restricted travel from 8 southern African countries. Though experts say they still have a lot to learn about the new variant, their recommendations are largely the same. Get your vaccine, mask up, and try to social distance.
What we have, and I think what the public needs to know, is that the strategies that we used for Alpha are the same strategies that we're using now for Delta, and the same strategies that we will use for Omicron. It's the same things that we've been doing, that we've thankfully learned how to do now to try and suppress transmission. So obviously most important is going to be vaccination.
There are over 20 sites providing vaccine and booster shots in the Denver metro area, and right here on campus, there are 2 options available for eligible students, faculty, and community members.
I think also reinforces the importance of booster doses, knowing that there could be some greater level of immune evasion. I think that's another reason for individuals to consider getting booster doses at this time, to have that highest level of antibody or immune protection.
Appointments are recommended and can be scheduled online in advance through the COVID Check Colorado online portal. Testing, vaccine, and booster shots are available in the Health Center at Auraria, located in the Plaza Building.
We test all students and faculty, and then everyone in the community as well.
The pursuit of a college education has long been the goal for a majority of Americans. A new program being offered here at Metro is encouraging those whose college journeys were cut short or disrupted to return to accomplish what they started. Recently, MSU Denver was given a $5.7 million grant from the Colorado Opportunity Scholarship Initiative to help enroll and support adult learners with a level of college credit. The university plans to give a $1,000 scholarship to 1,000 students from 2022 to 2025. The money will be granted to the students during their first semester at the school, but they will also receive additional aid in their ensuing years as well as emergency funds to draw upon, giving students a much softer landing spot.
MSU Denver recently became the only four-year university in Colorado to receive an authorization that gives aviation graduates the opportunity to get ready for takeoff sooner. The endorsement from the Federal Aviation Administration certifies students of specific aviation degree programs with the Restricted Airline Transport Pilot License. The RATP license reduces requirements of 1,500 hours of aeronautical experience to 1,000 hours for MSU Denver students. The coursework and the amount of training will remain the same. MSU Denver's aviation professor, Chad Kendall, said the reduced flight hours can allow students to become flight instructors or join the airline quicker. A Denver organization opens a safe space for victims of domestic violence.
State resignations soar into the top 5 nationwide.
And is it melting in here, or is it just Denver? A lack of snowfall looks to break records.
All this and more when we come back. Stay tuned.
It's time to make an informed decision about COVID-19 vaccines. The dangerous new Delta variant is more than twice as contagious as the original virus and can affect anyone. Right now, 9 out of 10 hospitalizations and deaths from COVID are among unvaccinated people. Getting vaccinated might save your life, and there's now an option that's fully approved by the FDA. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org.
Kids will be kids, which just goes to say kids will be curious. They get into.
We have some breaking news. There has been a positive Omicron case confirmed in Colorado, as well as at least 5 cases in New York and 1 in Minnesota. Here in Colorado, a woman tested positive in Arapahoe County after recently traveling in the southern regions of Africa. She is reportedly experiencing mild symptoms and was vaccinated but had yet to receive her booster shot. So far, this seems to be an isolated case. State officials are ensuring the public that this is not cause for panic and that the arrival of the newly highly mutated variant was expected. Tools are in place to stop the spread. And their best piece of advice, get those vaccines and boosters as soon as possible.
We're going to have to keep you updated with more information as the story unfolds. For now, we have another story for you. And for that, we go to Lilybeth Valles.
Thank you, Grant. The first steps into the pandemic were taken with people being quarantined in their homes to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. While some enjoyed spending their days at home, others faced problems in silence. One of these problems was domestic abuse from partners. With a growing population of Latinas, I wanted to look at how the pandemic impacted Latina domestic abuse survivors.
1 in 3 Latina women experience domestic violence, and according to the Latino Leadership Institute, 1 in 4 Coloradans will be Latino by the end of this decade. Domestic violence, also known as intimate partner violence, can occur to anyone and can be a single or continuous acts of violence or threats against an intimate partner. Netflix released its own show in October called Maid that showcased a young mother cleaning houses to support her daughter after trying to escape an abusive relationship. But what took place on the show could be happening right next door to you. With a growing Latino population, we asked ourselves if the voices of Latino survivors of domestic violence have been heard during the pandemic. We spoke to Angela Ceseña, the executive director of Latina Safe House, an organization in Denver, Colorado that works to assist Latina survivors and their loved ones.
Even though the numbers haven't increased as much as they did in 2020, the level of services and the severity of the cases has. And so we've seen more cases of strangulation. With this increase in severity, we do know that the demand is still there and that there are still folks who are experiencing domestic violence.
In order to adjust to the circumstances of the pandemic, the Latina Safe House started providing services virtually.
What we were able to do is actually provide computers to survivors.
MSU Denver has witnessed its own increase of the Latino population. This semester, the community made up 33.3% of the students.
First and foremost, just want to let them know how much strength that takes, because that is one of the hardest things.
The organization is actively accepting volunteers for various positions. Colorado Gives Day is also coming up this December 7th to support local causes.
A recent surge in workers quitting their jobs nationwide has been dubbed the Great Resignation by journalists and economists. While most states are hovering below 4% in their quit rates, Colorado has moved up into the top 5. Colorado is currently tied for 4th among statewide resignation rates at 4.3%, trailing only Hawaii, Montana, and Nevada. The easiest explanation for this uptick is the continued strain of the pandemic on local businesses. But deeper speculations accredit the aging workforce and an overall low participation rate among prospective workers to the spike as well. States with lower unemployment rates have been seeing workers use these conditions as leverage to pursue more advantageous employment opportunities. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics expects this trend to continue growing in the coming years.
2 weeks after the shootings at 2 Aurora high schools and a recent shooting on East Colfax and Dayton, Aurora Public Schools are putting forth action to ensure safety for their students within the Aurora communities. Following the shootings in the past 2 weeks, Aurora Public Schools has decided to enforce safety protocols and regulations, including closed campuses at every APS high school, meaning students will not be able to leave campus for lunch, as well as going to the parking lot. The district is also pushing to increase security at all schools and encouraging students to communicate with any counseling support available. All of this will be maintained until this coming winter break. The Aurora Police Department and the school district have also encouraged parents to talk to their kids and intervene in their lives as much as possible. Although these safety measures have been put in place, some parents have already decided to withdraw their children from the schools.
Denver has been without snowfall for 223 days, with the latest few weeks remaining fairly temperate and sunny in the Mile High City. Denver is only 12 days away from breaking the all-time record for snowless days, a record which has stood for 134 years. You'd have to get back to the 19th century to find precedent for a season such as this. In 1887, Denver saw a record 235 consecutive days without snowfall. 40% of our state is currently in a severe drought category, with Denver receiving around a quarter of its typical precipitation averages in the last month. These precarious conditions have led to worrying fire danger, most evidently in Boulder, where Stage 1 fire restrictions are in place. Meteorologists are pointing to 2 major factors, with the Pacific jet stream following an El Niño pattern, which typically contributes to less than average snowfall, as well as climate change, and winters in the West have been shorter and drier than ever.
La familia para mí es algo que es muy importante. Mis papás son de Jacona, Michoacán. Fui un niño que creció en su familia católica. Íbamos a la iglesia, íbamos a trabajar. Mi papá vino a este país como campesino. La presencia de mi padre fue muy importante. Él me enseñó a trabajar. Mi papá trabajó muy duro para poder darnos las oportunidades en este país. Nunca me lo imaginé que en mi vida iba a ser un entrenador. Para ellos es algo que les da orgullo. Mi padre, mi madre y mi hermana terminaron con la enfermedad del COVID. Estaba muy apurado por su bienestar, por querer trabajar, por querer estar bien y por querer tener la gente a mi alrededor bien. Es que yo decidí tomar la vacuna. Es importante saber que la vacuna del COVID es gratis para todo el mundo. Cuando lo piensa uno, no solamente la seguridad de uno, pero la seguridad de la familia, la seguridad de la gente y las personas a nuestro alrededor. Todos podemos hacer algo positivo para ayudar a alguien más.
Thanks for staying tuned, guys. I'm Valeria Quiroz, and here's the latest in politics. Comencemos. La población latina está buscando representar en el nuevo distrito del mapa del Congreso. El distrito más reciente de Colorado ya tiene 2 candidatos latinos, ambos del Partido Demócrata. Yadira Carabeo es una pediatra en Thornton y fue la primera en anunciar su candidatura en ambos partidos. También tenemos a Chas Tedesco, un veterano quien solía ser líder sindicalista. Tedesco anunció su candidatura en un video donde contó su experiencia en el sistema adoptivo y cómo manejó la pandemia en el condado Adams. Este nuevo distrito está formado por varios suburbios y áreas rurales alrededor de Denver y tiene proyectado estar compuesto de al menos un 40% de hispanos y o latinos. The Conservative Representative Lauren Boebert is in the spotlight once again after some discriminatory and offensive jokes. Representative of Colorado Lauren Boebert had made some offensive comments about Democrat Representative Ilhan Omar from Minnesota, implying she might have a suicide bomb during the Capitol insurrection. After the incident, they were both on a call that ended on condemning statements of social media. Representative Lauren Boebert refused to apologize publicly to Representative Omar. However, she did make a statement on Twitter apologizing to anyone in the Muslim community who might have been offended. Representative Omar called the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, to take action, and the leadership of the Democratic House called out Boebert's offensive comments. The rise of homeless camps in Denver is becoming one of the most pressing issues that the local government is dealing with. Due to the proximity of our campus to downtown, it was only a matter of time until our own student body was affected.
The increasing rent and housing prices fueled by urban development in the greater metropolitan area, along with the waves of people moving to Colorado, have caused higher rates of displacement and housing insecurity. Colorado residents are struggling to afford their rent and mortgages on top of their basic living needs. College students are no exception. Many have to either live with their parents to save money while they finish their degrees or take less classes so that they can work full-time while going to school. This crisis was enhanced by the pandemic. However, students can receive support from the Student Care Center.
The care referrals, which is how students get referred to us, have more than doubled since the pandemic, and so we've been extremely busy trying to connect with students and serve them. I think the number of emergencies and the level of the emergency has definitely increased.
Students on Auraria campus that might be experiencing housing insecurity can rely on the Student Care Center to get resources, academic and emotional support, and help with food insecurity.
I would describe the pantry as a place for all MSU Denver students to come and just grab what they need, because that's really what it is. We don't really exclude anybody. Nobody has to sign something that's saying that they need it or that somebody needs it more than anybody. It's just for all of the students to come.
If you're interested to know more about these programs, you can go to the website msudenver.edu/studentcarecenter/.
La nueva variante Omicron está causando un aumento en los casos de COVID-19 una vez más, y esto es lo que el gobernador Polis piensa realizar al respecto. La semana pasada, el gobernador Polis dio una conferencia de prensa explicando las nuevas cifras de casos del COVID-19 y aumento en hospitalizaciones debido a la variante Omicron y a las personas no vacunadas. Hasta ahora hay 1,320 personas no vacunadas en el hospital y 9,219 muertes debido al virus. Polis reivindicó la importancia de vacunarse y de esa manera proteger a los demás y reiteró que no planean realizar un mandato del uso de mascarillas a nivel estatal.
Hasta cierto punto es su responsabilidad. Es su decisión si no quieren tomar las precauciones para protegerse. Se convierte en una responsabilidad colectiva. Es cuando nuestros hospitales están a capacidad y otras personas no pueden realizar cirugías y procedimientos médicos que necesitan.
And with this, we end politics. Stay tuned for sports with German Luchuga.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
So unexpected changes often bother children with autism, and that story from Jacob inspired us to do the river scene, where the wave caused by a creature that was swimming pushed his boat to another direction, and that made him very upset.
Whether it be sports, music, or art, we're all good at different things. But when it comes to texting and driving, no one's good at that.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm German Luchuga, and welcome to News Ahora Sports. For our first story, we turn to football. Every player that steps onto the field in high school has one goal in mind, reaching into the state championship. As Championship Saturday approaches quickly, our own Trenton Sanders got with the teams on Tuesday during the championship press conference.
Players all over the state began their season with one goal in mind, being at the top of the mountain raising the crown as a state champion. And now the time comes where the 4 teams get to take the field on the biggest stage of football in Colorado, in Power Field at Mile High. The 5A title game features Oklahoma commit Gavin Sawchuk's undefeated Valor Christian Eagles versus coaching legend Dave Logan and the 11-2 Cherry Creek Bruins. For Valor, it's about getting revenge after their loss at last year's title game against the Bruins.
I'm just proud. We have 29 seniors that have started in January. They were humbled in December of 20, and we started in January, and this was the goal to get back to.
Even though head coach Lincoln Riley is out of Oklahoma, senior and Oklahoma commit Gavin Sawchuk has his mindset on one thing.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that right now. I'm just trying to focus on this championship game. We got a great team that we're going to be playing. It's going to be a hard game, so really focusing on that right now.
As for the Bruins, it was about reloading and getting back to the big game.
Our path has been a little different this year. We lost 34 seniors last year, so this was somewhat of a transitional year, and we've had some ups and downs, but I am really, really proud of this group.
And in 4A, the 13-0 Erie Tigers will face off against the Cinderella story of the 10-3 Chatfield Chargers. The Tigers have paved their way to an undefeated title game appearance behind the stellar performance of sophomore quarterback number 3, Blake Barnett.
He's absolutely stepped up. Blake is awesome, and he always gets it done. Even though he is an underclassman, talking to him, you couldn't really tell. He's a great leader on the team, on and off the field, and he's stepped into that role very well.
Not only has performance affected the Tigers' season, chemistry has been a huge part in their success.
I would say it's the majority of everything that we have that's special. I mean, yeah, we do have talent, we have everything like that, but I think our uncommon unity and our chemistry is what really pulls us together.
As for Chatfield, they're riding behind a different kind of chemistry. Family. Head coach of the Chargers, Brett McGatlin, has a very well-known last name due to his father, Don McGatlin, who has won a pair of state championships himself.
He's a guy, if you've been around Colorado for a long time, he loves football. I think he wants this more for me than he does anybody else.
It's been clear his help to the team has been detrimental to their success.
It's a family sense in our program. I mean, these are my brothers right here. Everybody that's not here, they're my brothers. And that stems from them both. You can see the unconditional love, and they branch it out to us, and I'm forever grateful.
Dreams will come true, and heartbreak will be set. But until then, the anticipation sets in for Saturday's big matchups. From Empower Field at Mile High, this is Trenton Sanders.
Then Trenton, the 4A championship game versus the Erie Tigers and Chatfield Chargers is at 11 a.m. Saturday. And the 5A title game between Valor Christian and Cherry Creek will kick off at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow at Empower Field at Mile High. After the astonishing teamwork and dominance displayed by the MSU women's volleyball team throughout the RMAC tournament, they were back on a few challenges. The women's volleyball team faced CSU Pueblo this Thursday at the Auraria Event Center. The Roadrunners are now number 3 in the country after losing the final in the RMAT tournament to the Karlsruhe Mines. They rebounded by delivering a dominant performance in the NCAA second division, beating the rivals in all three sets. The sophomore, Riley Echlaki, led the team to a win with a remarkable performance of 15 kills. Their next opponent is Angelo State University. The game will be at Aurora Event Center today once again. Switching up the courts, the MSU men's basketball team has been dominating the conference challenge. This past Thanksgiving weekend, the team delivered a couple of impressive performances, giving them 2 wins, bringing their season record to 6-0. The first game was against Concordia St. Paul University this past Saturday. The match ended with a score of 71-68 in favor of the Roadrunners. The most recent game against Benedictine Mesa was dominated by MSU, finishing the game with 108 points over their rivals, who only scored 83 points. Nadar Tyree Randall led the box score with 20 points. The upcoming game will be against the Westminster Griffins this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. in the opening of the RMAT tournament. Let's hope the best for them in this opening. Imagine que su trabajo consista en viajar, haciendo lo que ama. Daniel Chanona es un reportero de deportes para TUDN y él nos cuenta cómo fue su experiencia durante y después de la pandemia en su labor.
Nacido en Chiapas, México, Daniel Chanona tiene experiencia en radio, televisión, prensa y ha sido presentador. Actualmente es el corresponsal y reportero en Europa para TUDN.
Y hablando eso del COVID, lo que pasó, ¿usted tuvo algo? ¿Cuáles fueron los cambios fundamentales? ¿Usted cree que los cambios fueron buenos o todavía se está acostumbrando a alguien como usted?
Laboralmente hubo muchos cambios porque nuestro trabajo consiste en viajar y en Europa los protocolos durante todo el año anterior, sobre todo, fueron muy diferentes dependiendo también el país o la región que visitabas, y fue estresante planear la logística de cada cobertura, y aún así fuimos uno de los pocos medios que tuvo presencia en casi todos los grandes eventos europeos, aún con las restricciones. Y luego el someterte a las pruebas PCR, a los test rápidos de antígeno. Yo bromeaba con que mi nariz estaba más violada que la Constitución mexicana, de tanto hisopo que me metían. Creo que eso fue lo más duro a nivel profesional, y a nivel personal. Creo que sería muy injusto decir que la pandemia nos sirvió para aprender algo. Creo que eso es muy relativo y depende mucho del estado anímico en el que hayan estado las personas en aquel momento. En mi caso, como recién te decía, me sirvió para tener un crecimiento de fortaleza mental.
Para News Ahora, German Luchuga.
That's all I got for sports today. Be sure to tune in next week and have a safe weekend.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
En este momento, 9 de cada 10 hospitalizaciones y muertes por COVID ocurren entre personas no vacunadas. Las vacunas contra el COVID son gratis y ahora hay una opción totalmente aprobada por la FDA. Obtén la información más reciente en detidepende.org.
But of course, I think that takes me back to when I was doing sports back in high school, actually.
Me too, and it's been a long time since I can say I've picked up that basketball, but my main sport was track, so.
Mine too. What event did you run?
The 400. I don't know if I could do it anymore. Do you think you could?
Not now. I mean, not in the time that I could. I think last time I did it, it was much faster. But
yes, to say the least. Mine was, I went to the league finals one year, and then after that, it was just not happening.
It happens.
And that's all we have for News Ahora today. Be sure to check out our website, mymetmedia.com.
And good luck on your finals, everyone. Have a good weekend.